what are you doing? What are you doing? 90% of people aren't living. They're living lives of quiet desperation.
You helped him being homeless almost, and he stole from you afterwards.
Yeah, we were selling it for between 14 and 30,000. I had all my personal accounts were frozen, and I was banned off LinkedIn, which was my one source of leads at the time. The official reason they gave was because they didn't like my name.
What's the secret weapon behind every top CEO and entrepreneur? A game-changing executive assistant. Hermessi gives you access to elite EAs who supercharge your productivity. From payroll and admin to social media and customer support, they handle it all so you can focus on growth and big picture decisions. These aren't your average assistants. They're expertly trained, thoroughly screened, and equipped with the latest AI tools to work smarter and faster. Ready to delegate and dominate? Get 15% off your first 2 months with code INSPIRE15. Don't wait. Visit Hermessi, that's HERMESSI.webflow.io, and take back your time today. Hey everyone, it's Linda Vo, and welcome back to Inspired by Success. What if I told you the secret to scaling a tech company isn't in marketing funnels or venture capital, but in lessons from life's toughest moments? At just 4 years old, our guest experienced a moment of powerlessness during his mother's severe seizure. But instead of letting it define him, he turned that experience into unstoppable drive. At age 26, he's built and sold an AI sales company that hit 100K monthly revenue in just 9 months, using only a phone and genuine conversations. From caring for 3 family members while commuting 4 hours daily to university to helping tech founders transform their businesses, he's proving success is about heart, not just strategy. So without further ado, please welcome to the show, Ash Smith.
Linda, that's very kind. That is a very, very kind introduction. I really appreciate that. Thank you very, very much.
Oh, your story is super inspiring. So tell us, your story starts with a powerful moment at age 4. Your mother's seizure clearly had a big impact on you. How did that early feeling of powerlessness shape your drive for success? Because sometimes people have traumatic events or things that happen to them in their childhood, a bad upbringing, and sometimes that makes us more driven. So how did that early moment shape you as the man you are today?
Yeah, so when I was 4 years old, I was already up with my granddad. My grandparents pretty much raised me a good chunk. And my mum has epilepsy. And she came downstairs. She came downstairs with a wine bottle. She has like a glass of wine a night, like nothing too extreme. But this one was empty. And she came down with it. It was Lambrini, cheap bottle of British wine, very working class. And she comes into the kitchen, and I'm very excitable. I go up to her, as a 4-year-old is. And I go, Mummy, good morning, how are you? How did you sleep? Whatever child thing is going on. My granddad's in the room with me, he's eating breakfast at the kitchen table. And as she goes to reach for her tablets, she sort of stops. She sort of freezes. My granddad starts to get a little bit concerned. He says, Ashley, come over here. I don't, obviously. I'm a child. I'm not doing as I'm told. And she goes into seizure. And up until that time, I was very protected. And I never saw that. And the first time I ever saw her seize was probably one of the most horrific times she ever did seize. As she was going down, she grabbed, obviously because you're seizing, you're contracting. She grabbed that wine bottle, and as you're seizing, you're doing this, and she starts smashing her head open with this wine bottle. Oof. And at that point, my granddad shouts at me to go upstairs, and I'm obviously in shock. I don't know what I'm feeling. I'm feeling hopeless. I'm feeling scared. I'm feeling all kinds of different emotions at that moment, and I still remember it very vividly. And yeah, that's my first proper childhood memory that I've got. And when you're growing up, obviously you don't think about it. When you're a teenager, you don't think about it. It's only when you start reflecting on your life and you start reflecting on what has occurred and what has happened that you realize that those moments have defined certain inalienable aspects of your life and your decisions that I've made. And you asked a good question there, which was, how has it affected me? It's better. It's difficult for me to answer that question because it has fundamentally shaped my life. It's fundamentally shaped what's made me and the decisions that I've made. I know for a fact that realizing very early on that life is very fragile has definitely shifted how I view living. I genuinely believe that you must live every single day 100%. 100%. And a quick little story, a bit of a tangent on that. I have this little thing. It's very strange. It's been happening since I was about 17, where if I'm not living in 100% authenticity to myself, I develop a cough. And this cough only comes between the hours of 8 p.m. and 9 p.m. at night. This is true. So if I develop a cough between those hours, I know I'm not living 100% to my authentic self. My body physically prevents me from veering off course. And that has been really tough. That has been really, really tough. Because sometimes, if I'm in a difficult situation, I want to do the thing to get me out of the situation the fastest. And that might be in compromising my authentic self. Knowing that if I do that, I'm going to get sick. It's all of a sudden, crap, I can't get through this in this way. I've got to find another way. Otherwise, I'm going to be unhealthy. Otherwise, I'm going to suffer and struggle. I remember many times where I've thought, oh, maybe I'll get a job. Maybe I'll give this X, Y, and Z up because it's hard. And every time I've done that, the following night, I start looking for jobs. I get this cough. And I can't do it. And I don't know what that's about. But I think it's probably something to do back then. A thought, feeling, something that happened. A little 4-year-old version of me where a decision was made to live in the most largest, most grandest way possible. And
Wow.
I suppose that hopefully answers some part of the question.
That's very powerful because, they say things happen for you, not to you. And I think that definitely shaped who you are today as well. And, you managed to travel 4 hours while caring for your family. That sounded a bit pretty difficult as well. So how did that prepare you for the world of entrepreneurship? Because, sometimes working for others, you're not, generally doing your authentic, like you're not being your authentic self and doing what you want to do as well. But how did that commute, caring for your family, all prepare you for entrepreneurship and being your authentic self?
So, quick little story about university. I had this belief. Thought, right, I'm going to uni. I'm going to be surrounded by really mature, really intellectual, really advanced people that I can get a real good conversation with, that I can develop as a human being with. They're all going to be just like me. Within a week, I realised that was incorrect. That was totally.
Why is that?
I found out. Oh, quick little side note for you. You should enjoy this. I did a psychology degree, and the little joke that anyone who does a psychology degree will tell you is there are 2 reasons why you do a psychology degree. By the way, can you swear in this podcast?
Yeah, I'll bleed it out. It's okay.
Okay, you believe it out. Okay.
Yeah.
There's two reasons. There's 2 reasons why someone chooses to do a psychology degree, and those reasons are: reason number 1, to find out why their parents are so effed up, or reason number 2, to figure out why they're so effed up.
Ah, okay.
And the game that you play is figuring out who's who. So are you here because you're effed up, or are you here because your parents are? Which one is it? Yeah. Some people, it's both, and they're art students. So, and so I figured out very early on, these people, they don't know what struggling is. They don't know what pain is. They don't understand what it is they're having to do to achieve. And there's so many people with anxiety, depression, nervousness, all these kind of problems, had no way of dealing with them because they'd never experienced any kind of pain or stress to compare it to. So when I met these people, I thought, this university degree is nothing. You're living on campus. I'm having to get on a train for 2 hours just to be here. I have to wake up at 4:30 in the morning to do everything I need to do, get on a train, come here, then to start my day. You rock out of bed at 5 minutes to 9 and come to the like, what are you doing? What
Mm.
are you doing? And that realization that 90% of people aren't living. They are not living. They are not living in their truly authentic self. They're not taking advantage of this wonderful gift of life that they've been given. They're living lives of quiet desperation. So recognizing that I do not want to be a person who lives a life of quiet desperation. Well, there's really only one track that I can go down, and that's to find similar people. Now,
Mm.
at the time, I thought that road was politics. At the time, I thought that politics was the way forward. Politics was the way to change lives. Politics was the way to make things work. Mainstream politics, that is. I got in there, and that was a real shit show. That was totally not fit for purpose. I had an awful experience with mainstream politics. Totally changed my perspective. And so the only road I was left with was entrepreneurship. It was the only place I could go to meet people that were on a similar path, that in
Mm.
some way, shape, or form had been effed up
Yeah.
by
Like,
circumstance, by situation, life.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is there anything that I could do from that point?
No, because
There's
sometimes
no way
people,
that I.
sorry, some people get comfortable and they haven't, like you said, experienced all that hardship and pain. So, they're happy being in their comfort shell and in their comfort zone as well, because there's a fear of, that pain because they haven't experienced it. And I think entrepreneurship works perfectly for those. It helps. It's great for people that are driven based on their past as well. And I've read in Dan Martell's book, the chaos that he had to go through in his life helped him and shaped him, and it gave him the skills that were needed for entrepreneurship. So yeah, I totally agree with you there. So how did your journey start, like into the entrepreneurship world? Because you faced some incredible challenges early on in your business. And I heard that your business partner stole 10K and you were searching for coins to buy food at one point. So tell us about that and what kept you going. Ready to revolutionize your content game? Meet Modern IQ, the AI tool that creates SEO optimized, plagiarism free blog posts with just one click. No more writer's block or endless hours of content creation. Generate high quality articles that boost visibility, save time, and slash marketing costs. Whether you're a startup or an established business, this tool is your content team, marketing expert, and SEO guru in one. Click on the link in the description to claim your free article and join forward-thinking entrepreneurs who are working smarter, not harder. The future of effortless marketing is here. Are you ready to dive in?
Yeah, so that was actually in the middle of my journey, funnily enough. When I was in university, when I realised that there was just so many people that were struggling, I thought, hey, I've been caring for my mum since I was 13 years old. I was in charge of her life at 13 when she had a seizure, which were, sometimes frequent, sometimes less frequent. And I thought, you know what? I can help people. I can really, really help people as long as they want to be helped. So I started to do a little bit of work, a little bit of business, just at university, coaching, helping people that I saw needed help. Something on the side, I was there, I'm bored. The degree wasn't really challenging me, and I wanted to do something else. It's where I started to learn a lot of different things like hypnosis and NLP and everything else too. And when I left university, had a bit of a stint in politics, had a bit of a stint thinking I was going to get a job. That didn't work out because I kept getting this cough. And thought, you know what? Let's do this. Let's do more of this coaching. And I was, 21, 22 when that started. And I started coaching, B2C. And then I realised that wasn't for me because the majority of people were just not living life that I wanted them to live it. And I wasn't experienced enough to handle people that could pay more. So then I went into B2B. Now, something I haven't mentioned is that when I was at university, during my second and third year, my granddad passed away, which meant that I had a little bit more time. And I started being a trustee for the Students' Union. And that was a £4 million charity. So being on the board of trustees gave me a really fantastic insight into how a 7-figure business operates, how to run a team of people. It was a team of 90 to 100 employees, being in charge of that, thinking strategically at a very young age, and I loved it. Good God, I loved it. I loved being in that strategic position and being able to think about challenges and find creative solutions to those challenges. And so applying the psychology, applying the experience, applying the business knowledge that I accumulated at a very early age, I found I was quite good at it. So for the first 3 years or so of me doing business, I actually did coaching. I was full on in coaching. I was helping young guys hit their first 10K month. That's what I was doing. And that was great. I enjoyed that. That was until mid 2022. And I won't get into it now unless you ask me, but I was effectively depersoned and banned on LinkedIn. And I had all my personal accounts. It meant that within the space of about 3 days, I had all my personal accounts were frozen, and I was banned off LinkedIn, which was my one source of leads at the time. And the reason they gave, the official reason they gave was because they didn't like my name.
Really?
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. At the time, my name was just Ash on LinkedIn. They banned me and they said, you can't have just Ash. You have to have your full name. They go, okay, that's Ashley Smith. Can I shorten my name to a nickname? Yes, that's fine. Isn't there a feature which allows me to shorten my last name as well? Yeah, you can have Ash S. Right. So you've banned me for a letter. You banned me for not having the letter S in my name. Yes, that's right. Yes. I have that in an email form I could possibly show you. I actually believe that in that same week, I posted a picture with me and not at the time, but it was going to be a picture of me and Rishi Sunak, who was the British Prime Minister of the UK. I was at a garden party with him, and, having biscuits and tea and different things. And within a day of me posting that picture, I was basically attacked and I had all these things taken from me. And I realised that I'm very vulnerable and that I cannot carry on in the way that I'm carrying on, and this was 2 years ago. Things have got a lot of different since 2 years ago in the UK around freedom of speech, freedom of expression. So you know what? I need to change. My business needs to change. I need to change. And that's when I looked at the world around me and I thought, you know what? AI is up and coming. This was before ChatGPT properly launched in January 2023. I thought, you know what? Yeah, let's give this AI stuff a go. Let's see what's going to work. One of my clients at the time, I pretty much helped him. He was effectively going to be homeless. He was sofa surfing, and I helped him. I trained him on how to sell, and he returned the favour by 2 months later. We were making money, and he basically took all of the money in our business account, and I wasn't doing any coaching at the time, so he just left me high and dry. I had less than $1,000 to support me for basically until making money again, and that was towards the end of November. So
wait, so you helped him? You helped him from being homeless almost, and then you lifted him up, and he stole from you afterwards.
Yeah, and I recognise now because I still know people he spent time with, so they tell him what was going on with him. And I wish him well. I genuinely wish him well, because what happened afterwards is that I recognise now it was self-sabotage, 100% self-sabotage. He went off. Yeah, him. Yeah. Him.
Oh, he self-sabotaged, not you self-sabotaged.
No, not me. No. He self-sabotaged because 2 months after that, from what I heard, he had a mental breakdown, had a nervous breakdown, and he couldn't take it. He couldn't take the pressure. He couldn't handle it. So. I see now that he was suffering and that the success was too much for him. He went from, as I mentioned before, effectively sofa surfing on his parents, on his friends' sofas, within 60 days, earning 5 figures a month in revenue. 10 grand, 20 grand, and he never experienced that. I think it was too much for him, and that happens to people. Some people can't take it. They can't take the pressure. They can't take the stress, and they buckle. And that's a lot of people.
Tell us the strategies. Can you guide us through the strategies of how you helped somebody be able to achieve that much using AI and leveraging the tools? And I think because I'm curious to know about the sales technique, and I love sales, and I think businesses need to know, like, that's a crucial skill to have. But now with AI coming into play, there's just so much more leverage you can use, and I can't wait till you can have like not deep fakes, like the
Agents,
agents,
AI
yeah, the
agents.
AI versions of yourself to be able to handle the sales calls and do that, because they're much more analytical. Because I've done that. I've done a coaching call with like one of my first, and then I got the transcript and I let AI analyze it, and I said, what could I have done better? And it just did so much analyzing and given me so much reasoning and like how I can improve. And I thought, wow, I never thought of these things too. So that's just powerful. But tell us how you helped that person achieve so much success leveraging AI.
Yeah, so just to be really clear, right, I'm not a geek. I am not an AI whiz. I'm not a
Mm,
tech guy. I'm a I'm a human centric individual. I like psychology. I like sales. I like to understand the human as we are and help them.
mm.
And so it was figuring out, oh, AI is going to be this big thing, hopefully, back in 2022. How do I leverage it? My mind is not inclined to think in this way. So what I did was that with my business partner at the time, we reached out to a number of AI companies, tech companies, and we found and made partnership to redistribute their technology on their behalf in the UK at the time. And what we did is that we found the formula for what worked with that particular kind of product. So, pardon me, we were the tech partner was selling this technology for between $3,000 and $7,000 a month, and by the time that we really, got this moving, got this going, in like March of that year, I had a new business partner at the time. After that point, it was fantastic and brilliant. We were selling it for between $14,000 and $30,000 a month, and that difference wasn't a difference in what we were providing. We were providing exactly the same thing. The difference was in the sales technique, in the way in which we sold product, and the way in which we leveraged relationships that we were developing with our clientele, with our prospects. That was the difference. Nothing to do with the tech, everything to do with the sale. And I can go into some details if you want to on how we did that, if that's useful for you.
Yeah, that would be. What did you increase the price? Just like perceived
Oh
value,
yeah,
or is just yeah?
we increased the price. The product stayed the same. Um,
Oh, okay. It's just
because
that's
what we gone.
no. So that you said you had a smaller amount and then increased to that other amount per month. So how did you get that increase?
Yeah, so the first thing we did is that we narrowed down our ICP. Um, the technology that we were selling at the time was specifically around SEO and building up basically SEO juice as quickly as possible, leveraging AI and AI tools.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we recognized that the businesses that could benefit the most from this were CBD, hemp, cannabis, vape, all these kind of
Restrictive.
arenas that are
Yeah.
highly restricted. Yeah, highly restricted, and they were reliant
Yeah.
on SEO. So we recognised that it was a blue ocean for us, and so we could dictate price. Not only could we dictate price, we could also dictate the terms of the business. So we had a number of revenue share agreements in place as well as a one-off payment, a one-off fee. So that's the first thing we did. We got clear on
Smart.
our ICP and we tested. Um,
Wait,
Second
what's
thing that we
ICP stand for?
ideal customer profile.
Oh, okay.
So
Yep. All right. Yep.
yeah, so we got clear on who our ideal customers were. We got clear on who it is that we believe that we could most serve, and
Mm-hmm.
who we think what we had was the highest value to. So if you're selling water next to 50 other people also selling water, you're valueless. But if you're selling water in a desert or water in an ocean where it's all salt water, you are infinitely more valuable. And that's what we found. We found a place, we found a desert which desperately needed what it is that we were selling. So we could dictate terms, we could dictate price. That was the first thing that we did. Second thing that we did is that we scaled as quickly as we could. So pretty much, in terms of our profit, we were probably putting in 70-80% of our net profit back into the business to scale it up dramatically. We went from having 7 people in, I think it was February, to having around 20 in April. So we more than basically 3 times the amount of team members that we had within 60 days. Because we wanted to scale this, we wanted to get it as big as we possibly could do, and get more and more and more and more customers in to feed the beast, feed the machine. So we delegated quickly. We trusted our team. That's a really big thing. You've got to trust your team. Just 100% trust your team. I always take a very hands-off approach, because I'm in sales. At the time, my belief was that I could probably get X number of salespeople. 50% of them are going to fail, but that's okay because the other 50% are going to do really, really well. I just focus my attention on the 50% doing really, really well. So rather than spending my time working with everybody, I can delegate away certain team leading functionality to 2 others who were Ryan and Theodore, good friends of mine, who became team leaders. And then I could focus on everything else. So not only were we scaling, I was delegating very quickly and trusting the people who I was working with. And those are the 2 main parts. And the last thing I'd say is I had a fantastic business partner. Fantastic. But when my previous business partner had utterly betrayed me, I got another business partner who I trusted 100%. His name's James Bennett. He's now retired. Absolute sales genius. He'd closed well over $2 billion in his sales career. And I partnered with him. And his support and his wisdom and his guidance was the lighthouse on which we sailed towards and around as a company. And it would not have been anywhere near as successful if it wasn't for him.
How did you find the ideal partner? Because I've heard other founders have a lot of trouble in getting, when it comes to finding the right, it's just like a marriage, really, So how did you find him? And, what are the skills?
You're going to love this, Linda. When COVID happened, COVID was one. I loved COVID, by the way. Really, really, I did. It was that's when I was just getting started with the B2B coaching side. I was shifting from the B2C stuff to the B2B stuff, and all of a sudden, when COVID happened, everybody was leveled. Everyone was the same. Everyone was equalized. Everyone had no idea what they were doing whatsoever. None. So suddenly, everyone was contactable because you suddenly had to be more open. So what I was doing at the time was I was cold calling. I'd never done cold calling before, wasn't trained in it. I just started picking up my mobile phone. This mobile phone, I've still got it. I still use it for work. I started cold calling. And James was one of the people that I cold called. And usually a successful cold call lasts for about 5 to 10 minutes. Call with James lasted 2 hours. Now, at the time, I thought this was a great cold call. Clearly, I'm a genius. Now I realise he was selling to me. Yeah, he was in. He was selling to me. Exactly, yeah.
Wow.
And, that was, 4 years ago? 2020, 5 years ago? Something like that. That will give you an idea of the length of time that it took to build that relationship, to build that trust. Something that I keep saying to people is you've got to play long-term games with long-term people. Because if you're playing a short-term game, why are you playing it? There's no point. If you're playing with short-term people, you're just compounding your rate of failure over time. You've got to combine both. You've got to do both. And that's the only way you're going to be successful over the long term.
Do you think a lot of founders overcomplicate their sales process? And how do you actually help people simplify that? What advice do you have?
Massively. Founders massively complicate their sales process. They complicate it because they don't understand, right? If you are someone who understands something, you keep it as simple as you possibly can do. So if you're overcomplicating something, it means that you don't understand it. You don't understand what it is you're doing. Always question. Question why it is and what it is that you're doing. One of my favourite philosophers, modern day philosophers, is a gentleman called Marco Pierre White. Marco Pierre White is an English chef, and he was the youngest English chef to ever receive 3 Michelin stars. A Michelin star is basically the best kind of thing that you can get in food in the UK. And he's the only person ever to give them back again.
Give them back?
Give them back. He worked 20 years to get 3 Michelin stars. And then as soon as he had them, within a few years, he gave them back. Because he recognised that the judges knew less about food than what he did, and which meant that the award was meaningless because they knew less about food than what he did. Right?
Wow.
So the reason I love Marco Pierre White is because if you watch him cook now, watch some videos on YouTube. There's loads of them. You will understand the philosophy that you need to take to your business. Like I mentioned, question everything. Question what it is that you're doing. Understand what it is that you're doing. That way, when it comes down to the sale, you're not going to overcomplicate it. So for me, there's 2 kinds. There's business development, which is the act of bringing the leads to you, bringing them in. And you can do it with marketing funnels, cold calling, cold DMing, etc. And then there is the sales call, the selling itself. And these are 2 very different skills. Very different skills. That's why you have setters or BDR, and then you have closers or SDR. They're 2 very different skills. So if you are business development, BDR setter, my advice is very, very simple. Figure out who your ICP is, go where they are, and start talking to them. That is it. That is it. The methodology that you can use depends on the platform that you use. If it's Facebook, what you need to do on Facebook is what I used was go onto groups where your ICP is, create content and send DMs directly that's personalized and relevant to the person that you're having a conversation with on Facebook. If it's LinkedIn, cool, create 1 piece of content a day that is relevant, which addresses a challenge or a problem or an aspiration of your ICP, and send at least 20 to 25 connection requests a day by SalesNav, because it's a fantastic tool. And make sure that you're sending at least 10 to 15 DMs per day.
Do you think that that psychology degree actually, I think for me personally, I think that would have helped you massively in understanding sales and how to improve it? Do you think for those who don't have that psychology degree, do you think, we should look into read more up on the mindset and, the psychology of sales type of thing?
Honestly, my 3 years doing a psychology degree was a massive waste of time.
Oh, wow.
Seriously, massive waste of time. What I enjoyed most about doing my psychology degree was the freedom it gave me while I was at university to do the things I really cared about, I was really interested in. So I didn't do any partying. I didn't do anything like that at all. I didn't have time. I was back and forth on the train and everything else. But every single day for 4 hours, I had time when I was on a train to do what I wanted to do. And I read. And I read books such as Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power, Mastery. I read books on hypnosis. I read books around neuro-linguistic programming. I read books on philosophy, economics, politics. I read as broadly as I could read, because that is the point of university. The point of university is to educate yourself and to become out a better individual than when you came in. That is forgotten. And my psychology degree was utterly useless. Utterly useless. It was a continuation of the kind of teaching that we experience in school. Do this in this way, try not to think it too much outside the box. It was useless to me. Useless. So you don't need a psychology degree to do what I do. You just need to have an interest in people. You need to have a degree of curiosity, of care, and of interest to really get to grips with a human being. And that's it. If you have those 3 things, and you can use your questioning skills, this questioning is a sales skill, not necessarily a business development skill, then you'll be able to manage, you'll be able to do it. You don't need a psychology degree. In fact, I don't recommend a psychology degree. Go for
Waste
a
of time.
philosophy degree,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Yeah,
So
because
because why?
because in psychology, and they don't tell you this, there is an issue around replicability. There's a replication crisis in psychology. Same for all science. People aren't replicating scientific studies, so they're not cross-verifying them, especially in psychology, which means that loads and loads of psychologists commit a load of bullshit, which frankly doesn't even corroborate with what we're expecting to see. And that's psychology for you. They're trying to become a science. They're not a science at all. And they just put a wannabe scientist. I don't recommend a psychology degree at all. You're much better reading the likes of Nietzsche, Carl Jung, Kant, Robert H. Ericksonian hypnosis. You're much better off reading those people. And also, Cialdini on influence. You're better reading these kinds of people than what you are the sort of psychologists right now, anyway, until they fix the replication crisis that's going on.
Taking it back to sales, what do you think makes a good closer? Because I'm curious to know too, because I'm just starting my coaching thing, and I'm learning the basics of being a setter and a closer so I can eventually train others. But what do you think makes a good closer? What skills, sorry?
Firstly, let's talk about values. The kind of closer that is the best SDR or salesperson I know, they are curious, they're empathetic, and they are 100% committed to getting the best outcome for the prospect in front of them. They're the three greatest values or skills or mindset, whatever it is you want to call it, that some of the best closers I know have. Why those three? Empathy allows you to understand at the core level where that prospect is in their buying cycle. I don't say sales cycle, I say buying cycle, because sales should be about the prospect, not about you. If you say selling, then that's about the seller. If you say buying, it's about the buyer. So it's about the buying cycle, right? It's all about the prospect. So empathy allows you to put yourself in their position at all times. Now, if you're putting yourself in their position at all times, you are now restricted on the amount of sleazy sales tactics that you can employ, which is exactly zero. You can't do any more sleazy salesman tactics at all. You now have to play a very different game, which is where it brings to curiosity. Curiosity is our ability to ask questions. The most important thing in a salesperson's toolbox is their questioning ability. If you do not have curiosity, if you're not curious about why a person does something or how they do it, or what makes them tick, or why they chose this over that, or why that solution, why not this, or what got you here in the first place, you're not going to be able to ask the most hard-hitting questions. The whole point of helping someone to buy is helping them reach the conclusion that what they need is what you have. The best sale that you can possibly do is to get them to realize by themselves, via just questioning and understanding and empathy, that you are what they need. It's you. It's a brilliant feeling, utterly brilliant feeling. This is what I teach to tech founders and founders all over, is how to do that as part of the sales process, is to get a person to have that feeling. And finally, there's care. You've got to care. If you don't care about what you're selling, what it is you're doing, and the outcome for that individual, for that prospect, what's the point? What's the point? Because again, this is about long-term relationships, long-term games with long-term people. It's not about the sale now. It's about the sale later and after that and after that, and the sales from their network and the sales from their network and carrying on. So if you are able to use and utilize these three mindsets and the skills associated with these areas, with these values, you will not only have a successful business now, immediately, but also in the not so distant future and the distant future. because you'll constantly care, you'll constantly do what's right for the customer, constantly do what's right for the client, and you'll have a successful business. Now, obviously, there's more specific skills associated with those elements, but fundamentally, that's what you need, and the rest comes naturally.
Wow. In terms of future, like your vision and innovation and looking at the current market, you were able to foresee AI early as well. But what emerging trends do you see reshaping the future of B2B sales now, especially with AI rapidly evolving?
Recently, we saw a big advent in robotics. Elon Musk released his X robots. Insane. I mean, truly, utterly, monstrously insane. They haven't
Mm.
quite got the software right yet on those robots. They were human controlled, but let's face it, it's probably 1 or 2 years away until we're seeing these in our reality. I think a big question which needs to be answered is that with the advent of artificial intelligence and soon to be general intelligence, which is basically human level intelligence on a machine, if that is applied to the economy and to more and more and more functions of the economy, and then that is applied to robotics, what is the purpose of a human being if, because it is no longer an economic unit?
It's not going to be needed. A lot of the
It's not going to
tasks.
be needed. Our entire economy is based off the understanding that we as human beings are economic units of production and consumption. All of a sudden, all of your production is taken over by machines, which means how do you ensure that we have the money, the promissory note to consume? We don't. An entirely new economy needs to be formed. Now, you asked me the question around what am I seeing in the future? What I'm seeing in the future is that there is a reason why the likes of Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Richard Branson are looking at doing things in space. Because if we suddenly have all of our tasks automated, done for us, all this minutiae, well, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to go into space. all of that human work is going to be going up if we get the economy right with this latest industrial revolution. I think there's a hell of a lot more to squeeze out of the AI sphere. It's a bubble, right? It's gonna pop eventually, right? It's gonna be a whole load of different parts and pieces. It's gonna be centralized to big companies. We're gonna see the advent of a new Microsoft, a new kind of Amazon, a new Bing, a new Apple. We're gonna see that in our lifetimes. That's gonna happen. So what I'm doing now, what I recommend people doing if they're interested in AI, is leverage your skill set. My skill set, sales and understanding people. And I'm getting into as many deals as I possibly can do with emerging tech companies, with the hope that at one point, one of those deals takes off, they become a multi-billion, if not multi-trillion-dollar company. And as long as I've got like a 1% equity stake, I'm sorted. So I'd say right now, what is pushing the envelope? It's still AI. It's robotics, and it's anything to do with bringing the human species into space. They're the three big things. And if you can create a business around any one of those three aspects, you just need help with selling. Unfortunately, I think I know a guy.
Do you think though sales is going to, because like I always talk to a few of my AI guests as well, and we talk about jobs, that AI will take, and sales is going to be one of them as well. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think we still have a long way to go, but eventually, like I said, because they can analyze things, but yeah, AI can also probably, because I had another guest that could detect the voices and the tones, and it's just fascinating. But do you think sales roles are not going to be safe as well in the future?
So let's break it down. There's B2C sales roles, which is sort of like your utilities, mobile phones, your contract, stuff like that. And then there is B2B sales. I think that B2C sales and those call centers, those atrocious Indian call centers that we have to experience, I think they're going to be totally eliminated. Totally and utterly. I think they're going to be totally eliminated. I think that we're going to have a reduction in sort of customer help care lines as well. I think that's going to be totally eliminated. Anything B2C that's a simple and non-complex sell, that's gone. That's AI through and through. When it comes into B2B sales, that's a bit more complicated. I think that the top of funnel aspect is going to be automated away, most definitely. I mean, I'm doing it. I've got hundreds of other people that I know personally are doing it. And there's tons and tons and tons of different businesses that are competing in that space right now to make that happen. But when it comes down to the selling, so BDRs I think are going to be replaced in B2B as a top of funnel. I think BDRs are going to be business development people. I think they're going to be moved to a more middle of funnel or sort of bottom of the top part. So once that initial conversation's been had, moving them along into a call, I think that might still be done for a little while by BDR, but eventually that'll be done as well. When it comes down to the sale, the B2B sale, the B2B selling, and the complexity around that B2B selling, that B2B sale, I think that's going to be very difficult for an AI to replace. Because if you imagine that you're talking to a business person, a founder, and you want to be reassured 100% this is going to work for you, and you know what is going to happen and how it's going to happen, you want a human being. You want a human being to sit there with you, to meet in person, to shake a hand, to touch flesh, and to have that kind of interaction. So what I'm suggesting to all salespeople is get into as complex of a sale as you can. It's why I'm in technology, because it's kind of weird to have technology being sold by more technology. People find it a bit freaky. It's easier if McDonald's is done by robots. That's fine. But tech being sold by more tech, that's scary for people. So that's why I'm in it.
And you mentioned like automated tools for the top of funnels that business owners are using. Can you name any of those tools? Because it is still currently a bit, for me personally, like, you know, I'm still using people. And even though it's like VAs, but I guess the productivity rate would go up if we could have some special tools. Can you recommend any special tools that you use for automation for the top of funnel awareness piece?
Yeah, I can give you a few. So there is Phantom Buster. That's a really great tool that you can use. That's all automations which are really available. That's like $70 a month, and you can get like 10 hours worth of automations that run on LinkedIn, Facebook, etc. And that can be from scraping leads to contacting leads, which all can be set up. Then you can use Lemlist. Lemlist is something that you can use for email and everything else. It's very famous, but you can start using that now for LinkedIn. You can use Expandy. That's another one you can use as well. There is Clay. Clay is another one that you can use. If I just get up what Clay does is that it enriches leads for you.
Clay, how do you spell that?
There is CLAY, Clay. Up-level your data enrichment. That's Clay.
Okay. And Expandy was for leads as well, did you say?
Walaxy is good as well. What, sorry?
Did you say Expandy would help for leads as well? You mentioned a tool called Expandy.
Yeah, Expandy. Yeah, Expandy. Yeah, Walaxy. I've heard good things about too. But to be honest with you, what the best people do, the most tech involved people, is that they'll use an automation tool such as Make. Now, what Make does is that you can go into the back end of multiples of different pieces of technology, and that you can connect them all together, and you can have Make automations which then go from piece to piece, piece to piece to piece, and they all sort of interact and engage. That's what a good chunk of tech people are doing right now as well.
Let's talk about overcoming challenges, and we know that there's a lot of uncertainty during these economic times now with the election happening as well, and we're talking off show about London going down. what advice do you have for founders who are struggling to reach their first major revenue milestone? Oh, did that blur out? Hang on. Can you hear me?
It's really struggling.
Oh, okay. I'll just put a
So
note on that.
I heard founders in London. I didn't hear much else.
Okay, hang on. So the question was, like, during these uncertain times and the economy is a bit shaky, what advice do you have for founders who are struggling to reach their first major revenue milestone?
That's a really good question. So, a bit of brutality first off. If you are desperate and you're on the red line and you need to pay the bills and you know where the money's going to come from, the best thing you can do is get yourself a job. Like, when needs must. You know, you've got to swallow your pride, and you've got to do that. If, however, you've got a good cushion, you're making some money, but not the amount that you want to earn, I would say that it's consistency is key. I'd say consistency and network. You cannot do it alone. You cannot do it alone. You have to surround yourself with highly supportive people. And that can be supportive family, supportive friends, supportive business people. You need to form alliances which can be used and leveraged across time. Relationships which will be really, really useful for you now and later. That is what's going to get you to that next level.
Cool. And because you've experienced in both hardship and significant success, what's the biggest lesson you've learned about success that most people get wrong?
Just because you've got 100k in the bank, it doesn't change you. It doesn't change you at all. I remember when I was making like £1,000 a month versus 100 grand a month, and I was still eating the same things. I was still watching the same things. I was still reading the same things roughly. Nothing changed. What that tells me, and what should tell everybody, is that success comes from within. It doesn't come externally. What people get wrong about success is that they think that magically it just sort of happens and now you're successful and you're this brilliant business person. No, you become a brilliant business person with the right habits and the right kind of attitudes and the right kind of vision. And then after that point, reality catches up.
Powerful. I like that. So who's been your biggest inspiration? And
1 second, Linda. 1 second, Linda. 1 second. I can hear my dog's barking. I just want to make sure I haven't shut it out. Sorry about that. He got himself stuck outside. I could hear him barking. I'm like, oh, my dogs are inside. But he got himself stuck outside. I don't know how you managed to do it. Sorry about that. I'll put him back.
No worries.
Okay. There we go. Right. So sorry about that. You, Carol. What was the question you were going to ask?
Okay, so looking back at your journey, who's been your biggest inspiration, whether that be a mentor, whether that be a book that's made a huge impact? Who would that be?
So I've had a variety of very important figures in my life. The first one I had in my life was my granddad. I didn't have my father in my life. He's never been in my life at all. So the father figure was my granddad. He inspired me with his wisdom, and that quite often being wise is a highly desirable feature to have, and that if you can develop wisdom as early as you possibly can in your life, and knowledge and wisdom are very different things, that is a wonderful trait. After my granddad, the next person I think I kind of idolized was Nietzsche. I went through a very rough part of my life when my granddad passed away, and reading a lot of Nietzschean books and poetry and everything else, it really got me through. And it was sort of really reevaluating my life and where I was and who I am and where I want to go. And then after Nietzsche, I think Jordan Peterson was pretty interesting for a time as well. I was really into Jordan Peterson. And then after that, there hasn't really been any business people that I've looked up to, because same for political people as well, because I understand that they're just people. They're just people which have harnessed their own internal power to create a life for themselves, to get the results that they're after in reality. And once you realize that that is a process which you can repeat and replicate in any area of life that you want to use it in, these people stop being as relevant or important to me. It's very rare. We live in a time where we idolize the merchant. We idolize the people with the money. It wasn't always the case. We used to idolize the priest class, then the warrior class, then the ruling class, and now it's the money men. I would much rather go back and idolize those people who really, really sacrificed lives, a lot more than sacrificing time and a bit of energy and a bit of work. So yeah, I don't really idolize anyone who's not dead, apparently. So there you go.
Very wise words. I can see your wisdom coming through as well. Guys, if you've found this episode interesting, please do me a favor. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like and hit that subscribe, and just tell me what resonated with you the most as well. And if you're listening on the podcast, please hit that follow button. Finally, Ash, is there one key message you'd like to leave our audience with?
Two things. Number one, if you are in tech and you're looking to get help with selling, contact me. The best place is on LinkedIn. Send me a message. I'm always open for a conversation, always happy to help. And the second thing I'd say is we are going into space, whether we like it or not. That future has been set in stone, and anyone who is also on board with that kind of vision, talk to me too. I'd love to talk to a fellow nerd and go over that too. So that's what I want to say. And thank you, awesome, Linda, for having me on. It was fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ash. I really enjoyed it.